Welcome back to another deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We love digging into these topics with you because, well, we know you're not just looking for those surface level summaries.
Right.
You want the real mechanics of how things work, but, without feeling like you're drowning in medical textbooks.
Exactly, yeah.
And today we have a mission that is perfectly suited for that kind of curiosity. We are taking a really comprehensive look at the profound biological connection between the number you see on the scale and the very literal building blocks of human life.
Specifically, egg quality.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is an area that affects so many people, yet the underlying biology is often completely misunderstood.
Oh, absolutely.
We are drawing from a really fascinating piece of material today titled The Weight of Fertility, Balancing BMI for Optimal Egg Quality.
It's a great read.
It was published by the Berkley Center for Reproductive Wellness, and it offers an incredibly detailed look at the cellular mechanics of fertility.
Yeah, it really gets into the weeds.
It does. And I want to establish right out of the gate that what we are talking about today isn't just a broad, general conversation about health and wellness.
Right. It's not just eat your veggies and exercise.
No, not at all.
Uh,
We are zooming all the way in to look at the microscopic cellular environment. We're going to reveal exactly why reproductive health is so deeply, intricately tied to body weight.
okay, let's unpack this because the premise set up here is going to surprise a lot of people, I think.
I agree.
It looks at the two extreme ends of the body mass index, or BMI. We're talking about obesity on one end and being significantly underweight on the other.
Both extremes do massive damage.
Right, but through completely different biological mechanisms, which is wild. And then we get to explore how Eastern and Western holistic treatments can actually step in to reverse that damage.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
It really is, but the biological insights are just incredible. So let's start with the heavy impact of excess weight.
Good place to start.
Obesity is typically defined as having a BMI over 30. But the real aha moment for me, like the thing that really blew my mind, was learning about what excess body fat actually does in the body.
Yeah, it changes everything.
Because I always thought of fat as just, inactive tissue sitting there, just storage, like a backpack you're carrying around.
Most people do.
But it actively alters hormone production because it actually creates estrogen.
It really forces us to completely reevaluate how we view fat tissue.
Yeah.
We tend to think of our endocrine glands, like the thyroid or the ovaries, as the exclusive controllers of our hormones.
Right, the official hormone factories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But fat tissue itself acts almost like its own endocrine organ.
Wow.
When you carry excess body fat, that tissue is just pumping out additional unregulated estrogen into your bloodstream.
And more isn't always better.
Never with hormones. The human reproductive system relies on an incredibly delicate, precise balance to function properly.
So when you throw all that extra estrogen in there,
What's fascinating here is that when you introduce this extra estrogen into the system, you trigger a massive domino effect.
right, okay, so the fat creates excess estrogen, but how does that jump to insulin resistance? Because that was in the text too.
It's a chain reaction.
But that feels like crossing into a totally different bodily system. I usually associate insulin resistance with blood sugar or diabetes, not necessarily reproductive hormones.
It does seem like a leap, but here's how they connect. Hormones do not operate in a vacuum.
Okay.
A chronic overload of estrogen
Huh.
disrupts the way your cells respond to insulin. And insulin is the hormone responsible for ushering glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells for energy.
Right, it unlocks the cell doors.
Exactly. But when your cells stop responding efficiently to insulin, your pancreas just pumps out more of it to force the issue.
It's like shouting louder because someone isn't listening.
That's a perfect way to put it. Now you have excess estrogen and excess insulin circulating in the body. This hyperinsulin state directly impacts the ovaries, prompting them to overproduce androgens like testosterone.
Which opens the door to conditions like polycystic ovary syndrome or PCOS.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of you listening have probably heard that acronym, but what is actually happening there mechanically?
Essentially, the communication signals get completely scrambled.
Scrambled how?
Well, the ovaries are supposed to receive a clear message each month to mature and release a single egg. But when you have this chaotic mix of excess estrogen, excess insulin, and elevated androgens, it creates a highly inflammatory environment.
That's just static.
Pure static. That clear signal to ovulate gets lost.
Yeah.
Instead of releasing an egg, the follicles just arrest in their development, forming small cysts.
Hence the name.
Right. So it prevents regular ovulation entirely. But beyond just missed ovulation, you have to imagine the ovary as the incubator for these eggs.
Okay, I'm picturing that.
If that incubator is chronically inflamed, the environment is fundamentally compromised.
Man, let's zoom in on that compromised environment, down to the microscopic level. What is this inflammation actually doing to the eggs themselves?
It's doing a lot of damage.
The material points to obesity promoting severe oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction within the eggs.
Yes.
Now, if we visualize the egg as a single cell, and the mitochondria inside it are basically the power plants or the batteries of that cell, right?
They are. An egg is the largest single cell in the human body.
I always forget that.
It's true, and it requires a staggering amount of energy to divide and eventually develop into an embryo. It relies entirely on its mitochondria to supply that power.
So is this oxidative stress essentially like battery acid leaking and rusting out the internal components?
That is a very accurate way to picture it. Think of oxidative stress as biological rust.
Biological rust, wow.
When the ovarian environment is highly inflammatory, it generates free radicals. These are unstable molecules that bounce around and damage cellular structures.
And they go after the batteries?
They specifically target and damage the mitochondria. So the egg's power source is literally rusting out.
That's terrifying.
It simply lacks the cellular energy it needs to mature properly or to execute the complex cell divisions required after fertilization.
And that microscopic damage translates into very stark, real-world impacts for anyone trying to conceive.
Unfortunately, yes.
Because of this rusted-out cellular machinery, the results are poorer oocyte, or egg maturation. It leads to lower fertilization rates.
Right.
It leads to higher rates of abnormal embryos. And tragically, it increases the risk of miscarriage.
The statistics are very clear on this.
Studies consistently show that women with obesity experience this reduced egg quality, which directly lowers pregnancy success rates. And here is the kicker, which really struck me. It lowers success rates even when they are using their own eggs in IVF treatments.
Yes, that's a huge point.
So even with advanced medical intervention, if that cellular battery is compromised by excess weight, the hurdles are incredibly high.
That's a crucial thing to understand about fertility treatments.
Yeah.
You can bypass a lot of structural issues with IVF.
Yeah.
You can bypass blocked fallopian tubes. You can manually introduce sperm to the egg.
Right, the mechanical plumbing issues.
Exactly. But you cannot bypass the fundamental biological quality of the egg itself. The cellular health has to be there for the embryo to thrive.
Which brings us to the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Because the delicate cellular environment isn't just threatened by excess weight.
Not at all.
Let's look at the other side of the scale, the starvation signal. We're talking about what happens when a person is significantly underweight, defined as having a BMI under 18.5.
This is such an important pivot.
Honestly, looking at this part of the biology, you just have to marvel at the human brain. It acts as this ultimate survival mechanism.
Incredibly smart.
It reminds me of when a smartphone hits 10% battery, it automatically goes into low power mode, it shuts down background app refresh, it dims the screen, and it disables anything non-essential just to keep the core processor running so the phone doesn't die.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right.
The clinical term for this biological low power mode is hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Yes. The hypothalamus is the master control center in the brain. When body fat drops too low, the hypothalamus perceives that the body is in a state of starvation or extreme duress.
It thinks there's a famine.
Exactly. It calculates that there simply aren't enough energy reserves to sustain a new life. So it literally stops sending the hormonal signals to the ovaries.
It just cuts the cord.
It halts the reproductive process entirely to conserve energy for basic life-sustaining functions.
But there's something really insidious about this starvation signal that the article pointed out. Even if a cycle appears regular, meaning someone might still be getting what looks like a period, there can still be subtle underlying hormonal disruptions happening beneath the surface.
That's where it gets tricky for a lot of patients.
Right. It's not always as obvious as a completely missing cycle. There can be a massive drop in estrogen and disrupted levels of FSH and LH. Let's define those for anyone who hasn't looked at a hormone panel recently.
Absolutely. FSH is follicle-stimulating hormone. Just as the name implies, it's the hormone sent from the brain that tells the ovary to prep and mature an egg for that month.
Got it. And LH.
LH is luteinizing hormone, which is the surge that triggers the actual release of the egg.
Okay, so if the brain is in low power mode...
If the brain is sending weak, scrambled, or altered signals for FSH and LH because it thinks the body is starving, That entire assembly line shuts down or malfunctions, regardless of outward signs.
And that disruption is compounded by severe nutritional deficits. Being significantly underweight frequently goes hand in hand with lacking the actual physical building blocks required to construct a healthy egg.
You can't build a house without bricks.
Exactly. We get a specific list of what goes missing. A lack of essential fatty acids, proteins, and crucial vitamins, specifically vitamin D, B12, and folate, along with a severe lack of antioxidants.
These aren't just nice-to-have nutrients for general wellness.
Right. These are the literal raw materials the body needs.
Think about what we discussed with obesity. The egg requires massive amounts of energy and pristine cellular components. Without essential fatty acids, the outer membrane of the egg becomes rigid and compromised.
It loses its flexibility.
Yes. And without enough proteins and specific vitamins like folate and B12, the DNA replication process inside the egg is prone to errors.
Which leads to those abnormal embryos we talked about.
Precisely. The damage from these deficits echoes what we saw with excess weight, but from a perspective of total deprivation. The egg's ability to mature properly at the mitochondrial level is severely reduced because it simply cannot gather the resources needed to support early embryo growth.
And just like with obesity, this microscopic deprivation links to very real, heartbreaking outcomes.
It really does.
Research shows low BMI leads to a longer time to conception, lower implantation rates, and reduced ongoing pregnancy rates. So you have these two extremes, carrying too much weight or carrying too little.
Two sides of the same coin, really.
In both scenarios, the reproductive cells pay a heavy price, whether it's through inflammation, hormonal chaos, oxidative damage, or severe energy deficits.
It paints a daunting picture of how sensitive our reproductive biology really is.
It does. It can feel a little heavy.
But this is where we pivot from understanding the depth of the problem to exploring how these deeply entrenched biological issues can actually be addressed.
Yes, the solutions.
Because the damage is so multifaceted, affecting hormones, mitochondria, and systemic inflammation simultaneously, the solution must be equally comprehensive. A single pill isn't going to fix a rusted mitochondrial battery while simultaneously rewiring the brain's starvation signals.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because we get introduced to the toolkit used by the Berkley Center for Reproductive Wellness.
They have a very unique approach.
They don't just offer one single isolated fix. They offer a synergistic, highly individualized set of interventions designed to address both weight regulation and egg quality at the exact same time.
It's a dual approach.
Yeah. They merge Eastern medicine with Western clinical understanding in a way that feels incredibly robust. Let's break down their internal approach first, starting with customized herbal medicine.
This is a cornerstone of their methodology. These aren't off-the-shelf supplements you grab at a health food store.
No one-size-fits-all here.
Exactly. A board-certified herbalist creates proprietary formulas that are entirely customized for the individual. They base these formulas on the patient's specific physical constitution, their latest lab results, and their target weight goals.
And the goal of those herbs is to work internally to reduce that systemic inflammation we talked about, to balance the chaotic hormones, and to improve blood flow directly to the ovaries.
Which is crucial for the cellular environment.
Right, because all of that serves to enhance the mitochondrial function inside the eggs. But they don't stop at herbs. They pair that with highly targeted supplementation based on comprehensive testing.
Again, no guesswork.
Exactly. There is no guesswork here. They are looking to provide concentrated antioxidants to directly combat that oxidative stress. Two of the key players mentioned are CoQ10 and melatonin.
Two very powerful antioxidants.
Going back to our rusted battery analogy, do these act like the rust remover?
In a very real sense, yes. CoQ10, or coenzyme Q10, is naturally found in the mitochondria of our cells, but levels drop with age and oxidative stress.
So you have to replenish it.
Right. By supplementing it in highly targeted doses, you are directly repairing and optimizing that cellular energy factory. It helps clear out the biological rust.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And what about melatonin?
Melatonin is fascinating here. Most of us know melatonin as a sleep aid.
Yeah, that's what I take it for.
But in the context of fertility, it is a remarkably potent antioxidant. It specifically accumulates in the follicular fluid surrounding the developing egg, acting as a protective shield against free radical damage during the crucial maturation phase.
So it's literally putting up a shield around the egg.
Exactly. It's a way of intensely nourishing the system from the inside out, amplifying the results without the side effects that come with many conventional medical options.
But of course, you can't talk about weight regulation, insulin resistance, or cellular health without talking about food. The third pillar of their approach is a personalized nutrition plan,
Nutrition is the bedrock for sustainable weight regulation. They design specific meal frameworks aimed at stabilizing blood sugar
which tackles the insulin issue.
directly. This directly attacks the insulin resistance we discussed with higher BMIs. If you can stop the massive spikes and crashes of blood sugar, you stop the pancreas from overproducing insulin.
And that stops the shouting match.
Right, which in turn stops the ovaries from overproducing androgens. These frameworks are designed to lower that systemic inflammation and deliver the precise macronutrients and micronutrients, like those missing fatty acids and vitamins, that the ovaries desperately need.
And by dialing in this nutrition, patients often see improved cycle regularity and measurable improvements in egg quality markers within just months.
The body wants to heal.
It's incredible how fast the body can respond when it's finally given the correct fuel instead of being starved or overloaded. And then there's the final piece of this synergistic puzzle, fertility acupuncture.
Acupuncture is a fascinating addition to this protocol. It works by regulating the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis.
Now that's a mouthful, the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis.
It is a bit of a tongue twister.
But based on what we've learned today, that is the literal communication superhighway between the brain's control center and the reproductive organs, right?
That's exactly how you should picture it. It's the highway where FSH and LH travel.
Okay.
Acupuncture helps clear the traffic jams on that highway. It helps restore the proper signaling so the brain and the ovaries are speaking the same language again.
That's such a great visual.
Furthermore, acupuncture has been shown to reduce cortisol, which is the body's primary stress hormone.
And stress just makes everything worse.
Always. High cortisol exacerbates both insulin resistance and the brain's starvation signals. By lowering cortisol and actively increasing blood flow to the ovaries, acupuncture supports healthy weight loss, or weight gain, depending on the patient's need, while simultaneously bathing the developing eggs in oxygen-rich, nutrient-dense blood.
It also provides a really practical clinical benefit. This highly targeted acupuncture is particularly effective when timed with a patient's cycle, and it can be used right alongside IVF treatments to improve those specific outcomes.
That represents the ultimate takeaway of this section, the synergistic effect.
Synergy is the magic word here.
It is. When you combine the customized herbs repairing the internal environment, the targeted supplements clearing the oxidative rest, the personalized nutrition stabilizing the insulin, and the acupuncture opening up the communication highways.
It all comes together.
These modalities work together. The weight naturally moves toward a healthy range, the hormones finally stabilize, and the egg quality improves dramatically. It's a fundamental shift in the cellular health of the eggs.
It's an incredibly hopeful, proactive message, and it's driven by a very specific expertise. The mind behind this comprehensive care at the Berkley Center is Mike Berkley.
Yes.
He is a licensed acupuncturist and a board-certified herbalist. But what really stands out is his deep specialization. He has over 27 years of experience, and he was actually the very first acupuncturist in the United States to specialize exclusively in fertility.
That level of singular focus is incredibly rare.
First in the U.S.
It speaks to a deep, specialized understanding of the specific biological mechanisms we've been discussing today. He's not just treating general back pain 1 hour and fertility the next.
Right.
He's dedicated decades to this exact cellular environment. But what grounds his expertise is something very human.
Yes, his journey into this field is deeply personal. He and his wife went through their own grueling journey with infertility, and it was actually the integration of acupuncture and herbs that ultimately helped his wife conceive.
Gives you a totally different perspective.
Knowing that the practitioner has sat on the other side of the desk, experiencing the emotional weight and frustration of infertility firsthand adds a profound layer of compassion to his clinical methodology.
It clearly informs how he operates. His specific approach is built on seamlessly integrating Western medical testing, getting the hard data on hormones, thyroid function, and nutrient levels with time-tested Chinese medicine protocols.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly. It's an evidence-informed approach that insists on creating truly customized, dynamic treatment plans, completely rejecting the one-size-fits-all solution.
For anyone listening who feels like this is exactly the kind of comprehensive root cause approach they've been searching for, there are very clear, actionable steps you can take. The Berkley Center for Reproductive Wellness is located right in Midtown Manhattan.
A great location.
If you want to take the first step, you can reach out to them directly. Their phone number is 212-685-0985. Again, that's 212-685-0985. Or you can visit them online at www.berkleycenter.com to schedule a consultation. Their team is ready to help you rewrite your fertility story step by step.
Which brings us to the big picture.
So what does this all mean? When we synthesize everything we've explored in this deep dive, the overarching message is clear. The extremes of body weight are not just cosmetic issues, and they aren't just about general fitness.
No, they go much deeper.
They are profound, microscopic biological barriers to fertility. Whether you are carrying too much weight and triggering an avalanche of hormonal chaos and oxidative damage, or you are carrying too little weight and triggering the brain's starvation signals and severe energy deficits, your reproductive cells are paying the price.
The batteries are being drained either way.
Exactly. But the incredible news is that you are not stuck. There are highly tailored, synergistic, and holistic ways to correct that cellular environment, repair those rusted batteries, and rewrite that fertility story.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this analysis really highlights the breathtaking interconnectivity of the human body. We often treat our bodies as a collection of isolated systems.
Yeah, like a car with separate parts.
Right. We think of our weight as one thing, our brain is another, and our reproductive organs as something else entirely. But this deep dive shows us that the brain's survival instincts, the active hormone production of our fat cells, and the microscopic mitochondrial health of a single egg are all locked in a constant, delicate, and deeply responsive communication with one another.
It's all one big web.
What affects one inevitably and powerfully shapes the destiny of the other.
It really does make you look at your own biology with a new sense of awe and respect. And it leaves us with something pretty fascinating to ponder.
What's that?
Well, we're going to leave you with a final thought today, building on everything we've uncovered. If our fat tissue can actively act as a hormone-producing organ, and our brains can hit a literal biological pause button on reproduction based simply on our energy reserves,
Yeah.
how might our modern, high-stress, and nutritionally unpredictable lifestyles be sending subtle starvation or overload signals to our cellular biology long before we even begin to think about starting a family?
That is a fascinating question.
It's something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.